Hey everybody, welcome back to Comic Chrome. We have a really big story going on right now. Sydney Watson is suing the Blaze for wrongful termination, discrimination, a bunch of things apparently related to her co-host behavior, Elijah Schaefer, and him being inappropriate and sexually harassing her while they were working together. Now, I'm not going to say it's 100% true or it's 100% false. I don't really know. Okay, Sydney Watson is doing something that I actually respect, and that's she's going through the courts. Okay, she didn't post this to social media. She didn't post a fucking thread begging for sympathy. She didn't upload a video breaking down into tears or anything like that. She has not spoken about the Blaze. She hasn't gone to anybody about Elijah Schaefer to try to get him, his reputation taken down behind the scenes or anything like that. She is going through her attorneys and suing the Blaze. So I will say, for me personally, one of the things that I see a lot of in cases like this or accusations of, any type of sexual impropriety, usually we'll see those accusations taken to social media first and not to the cops, not to a lawyer, not to sue them. They'll run to social media and try to destroy someone's reputation. In fact, we only know really about this story because, she uploaded this video talking about, moving forward, but also because there was a thread uploaded going through the details of this thread. Get Mr. Schaefer to stop talking about dicks so much. Sydney Watson is suing the Blaze for retaliation, wrongful termination, and sex and religious discrimination based on alleged abuse perpetrated by Elijah Schaefer, according to a copy of the complaint obtained and reviewed by Patriot J. So over here, they talk about it's like a hostile work environment, retaliation, discrimination. These are the claims that she is making, okay? Per the complaint, the maximum value of Watson's multi-year agreement with Blaze was approximately $1.2 million. However, the seven-figure deal isn't the only reason she signed the contract with the Blaze. And I've read through a bit of this. She says that she went to the Blaze because it was an incubator for talent. She went to the Blaze because of their reputation, their moral values. And according to her, they didn't live up to those same moral values. Apparently, as the show went on, this wasn't something that started at first, but as the show went on, Elijah Schaefer, according to her, started to drink more on the set, became openly misogynistic, grossly sexual with her. Watson claims Schaefer's persona on YAH became increasingly aggressive and soon began to veer into outright misogyny. He appeared to enjoy the intimidation factor that his physical size gave him with respect to Miss Watson, according to the complaint. The choice of guests compounded Miss Watson's growth discomfort with the anti-female tone of the show and the off-air interactions with her co-host. Now, this is where I said, I don't know if it's a inconsistency, but I do want to figure this out because to my knowledge, Sydney Watson was the one who was responsible for booking the guest. And I don't know if that means that she was being directed on who to book or she actually had the control and she was the one booking these guests that was making the show more uncomfortable. I don't know. I really want more information. But again, this is all going through the courts. It's going to be litigated. And we'll just have to wait for the information to come out. Notably, Watson points to YH's December 3rd episode featuring notorious bigot Nick Fuentes as evidence of the increasingly hostile work environment. It's Nick fucking Fuentes. This is more of you got to know that this is the guest that you're bringing on. I would imagine Nick Fuentes is the guy who thinks it's gay to have sex with women. Right? You know what you're getting when you book that guy. He was grossly misogynistic, and most troubling was how this appeared to be condoned by Mr. Schaefer. Watson says of Fuentes' appearance, it was at about this time that the environment on the production began to become notably more hostile, not merely to Miss Watson, but to many of the women at the Blaze. Maybe she's got other women at the Blaze that are going to be coming forward and complaining. It's possible. The thing is, I can understand how this could occur, right? Because Elijah Schaefer is a really big name. So is Sydney Watson. I'm pretty sure if one of them was acting inappropriately, the Blaze would do everything they can to kind of just try to sweep it under the rug, get people to kind of just agree to work together and things like that. and that can only encourage that behavior to get worse. Next, Watson points to the infamous Jack Murphy live episode and Schaefer's reaction as another example of the sexist hostile workplace. This part's interesting. Watson claims Schaefer refused to control Murphy because Watson, as a woman, would have looked weaker if Schaefer demanded his guests stop his abuse. Watson accused Schaefer of unilaterally booking several guests with particularly contemptible and sexist opinions towards women after the show returned from the holiday break in January 2022. Again, I was under the impression Sydney Watson was booking the guests, but her lawsuit is saying that Elijah Schaefer was doing it. Now, in terms of the Jack Murphy thing, I don't know if that's really fair to throw at Elijah Schaefer entirely, because Elijah was really against the way Jack Murphy treated Sydney. He was. If the comment is he didn't defend her on the show, I remember Elijah was not kind to Jack Murphy, and after the fact, they weren't even allowed to speak about it because, to my understanding, Jack Murphy has a good friendship with Glenn Beck, the guy who owns the Blaze, and he was able to shut them down from talking about it any further. I would say that's more about, your leadership at the Blaze than it is about Elijah Schaefer. But, the other things that she's alleging here, it does sound like typical kind of workplace sexual harassment. Like, the Blaze is supposed to be a professional workplace. I mean, as professionals you want to call it. They shouldn't be behaving like that in a place where you have, like, regular employees, The complaint also takes a shot at YH's most loyal viewers. Now, this is where I think she's going to run into trouble and piss people off because this is going to be seen as her attacking the fans of the show that she helped build. But according to her, these were not people that she wanted watching the show because they made her uncomfortable. I guess, right? Watson blasted Schaefer for cultivating an audience that uses the idea of being traditional as a cover for its extreme misogyny. Such viewers often flooded YH's discussion with super chats and grossly sexist messages. Yeah, I believe that. Schaefer and the audience had a running gag for Watson to read fan super chats that were allegedly coded dog whistles that referenced grossly misogynistic and or anti-Semitic comments unbeknownst to Watson. That is true. That's true. I thought that Sydney Watson was okay with it because, she would kind of like joke about it after the fact. But maybe that was just a cover. Maybe it was just a cover. I don't know. Like the stuff about Elijah Schaefer drinking and everything, and making sexual comments towards her off the show and everything, that seems far more serious. This other stuff, I'm not entirely sure I'm with it. I mean, I just, from what I've seen, and I don't really know what's going on in the background, but I don't think that she's just making it up. Much of the alleged conduct that contributed to the hostile work environment was explicitly sexual in nature. Schaefer would endlessly reference sex, often specifically gay sex, and discuss penises among other sexual matters, often graphically in front of the guest and Miss Schaefer, or Miss Watson. Sorry. Schaefer's sexual comments were so pervasive that at one point Blaze CEO Tyler Cardin asked Watson to get Mr. Schaefer to stop talking about dicks so much. Okay, guys, if that's true, that actually is very bad for the Blaze. That really is, because according to her, she's saying, hey, this was a problem. It was such a big problem, the Blaze actually wanted it to stop. However, Watson told Cardin to speak with Schaefer because Schaefer allegedly refused to listen to women. Schaefer's apparent refusal to listen to women was insulting and damaged Watson's ability to perform her duties. It seems like Schaefer's behavior was not being controlled. And the thing is, I've seen this happen before with people that are genuinely not bad people, but because they have no restrictions put on them, they start going off like crazy. And it's not until somebody steps in and actually slaps them across the face that they go back to being a normal dude. So maybe that's what's going on with Elijah Schaefer. He's blowing up in popularity. Nobody at the Blaze leadership actually wants to talk to him about his behavior. They're going to his co-host, telling the co-host, hey, you need to rein the guy in. And the co-host is like, he's sexually harassing me. What do you want me to fucking do? That does not look good for the Blaze. The YH team held a 2-hour meeting in March, which Blaze President Gaston Mooney was present for, where Watson expressed how Schaefer's constant sexism and hostile, unprofessional behavior on the show distracted and humiliated her, making it impossible for her to do her job. Watson allegedly told Schaefer point blank the sexism bothered her and made her want to quit. Schaefer then had a tantrum where he refused to sit on a YAH production meeting until his demands were met. Frustrated with Watson's disapproval of YAH's guests, Schaefer refused to help select guests, which increased the burden on Miss Watson. Oh, fuck. Maybe that's why Watson was booking the guest. Blaze repeatedly promised to take corrective actions, but ultimately failed to act. Watson notes that Schaefer's social media interactions are a component of his participation in the show, and he used these interactions to continue his harassment. Watson pointed to his April tweet from Schaefer in response to Sebastian Gorka as evidence of the online harassment. Well, let's read through it. I bet he wouldn't just sit there like a coward when a man cussed out a woman in front of him. Elijah. I hope she sees this and sleeps with you. Oh, okay. I thought that Elijah and Sydney Watson were equally upset with Jack Murphy, and maybe they were, but yeah, I remember Elijah Schaefer didn't step in for Sydney Watson. I thought that Sydney Watson didn't want him to, right? Like, more like, you know, that makes me look not good. I would believe that. But, you know, she's saying, dude, stick up for me. I'm your co-host. Look at the way he's treating me. And yeah. So she actually called it out with that tweet. That's interesting. After that April tweet, Watson told Blaze CEO Cardin and President Gaston she could no longer continue working on YAH. Cardin then informed Schaefer of Watson's departure and told him the show was over. A few weeks after leaving YH, Blaze gave Watson the green light to issue a public statement explaining YH's conclusion. I left the show. There were a multitude of reasons for doing so, Watson said in a statement in May. Ultimately, the professional situation worked into something untenable. However, she reminds her followers that she didn't get fired. So, how does she sue them for retaliation? I'm genuinely curious about that. At the time, Schaefer tweeted, finding out about my show's future on Twitter along with the public. Like, well, I mean, it seems like you sort of had an idea of why it was happening, though. In response, Watson said he had known for weeks the show was over and blasted him for adding further dishonesty to the rumor mill. Ew. See, I was not following any of this drama. Elijah, you've known for weeks that I stepped away. I was approved to let the audience know. There's no sense in adding further dishonesty to the rumor mill. It serves nobody. I wish you the best with slightly offensive and all things to come. This actually says, side note, they've actually removed all of their videos. Either they privated them, they're not unlisted, you can't see them, and they just completely rebranded the channel with Alex Stein, who's about to have a new show on the Blaze. I think that's dishonest. Now, it's saying like it's losing 1,000 subs a day. Well, no shit. I mean, he's not uploading any content to the channel, and it's not. And even then, people are like, I never subscribed to this guy. What is this? And they unsub. Watson complaints goes on to accuse Schaefer of telling several people, including InfoWars' Harrison Smith and Tucker Carlson's originals director, Scooter Downey, that he had to sue Watson to keep her quiet because she allegedly tried to get Schaefer's wife to divorce him. She also alleged that Schaefer falsely told several people that Miss Watson had made passes at him and tried to hit on him on more than one occasion. Watson argues Blaze constructively terminated her employment agreement. Well, here's my problem, okay? I would say, well, if you look at the two of them and their stories, like I don't know who is telling the truth and who's being dishonest, but what I will say is, if she posts this, okay, and he replies to her like, oh, wow, I'm just finding out about this on... He's doing that to make her look bad, right? Like, this is clearly being done to make her look bad. And I would imagine she's got the proof that he knew all along. So that's not a good look for Elijah Schaefer. Now, from there, I mean, there's really not much. There's not too much more to go in here. Quartering's responded to this, and Quartering's been doing a show with Sydney Watson. So I mean, I guess that makes sense. What I will say is, look, man, I didn't even read this entire thing. I just saw at the bottom he tried to make a pronouns joke, and people wound up getting mad at him. And yeah, I think getting mad at him for that is stupid, but at the exact same time, bro, maybe don't include a fucking joke in your public statement in support of Sydney Watson, who's alleging she's been sexually harassed, right? Like, use your brain a little bit there, because that's why people are getting pissed. I think because like, dude, why would you include a joke in this super serious conversation, right? Whatever, man. Anyways, guys, you let me know what you think in the comments section. Do you think Sydney Watson's in the right here? Do you think she's in the wrong here? Do you think anyone's not telling the truth? And who do you think that is?